Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Vicar Street. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage, Dara Ó Briain. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Vicar Street, Dublin's legendary live venue, the greatest room for stand-up comedy in the world, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, so, you know, perform. And not to put you under any pressure or whatever. And we're here. And also interesting, one of the first ones to snap back after the whole gap and all that, like whatever, in the way that it was interesting to watch audiences and yourselves going, oh, what are the rules now? How do we work this out? Like whatever. You can still feel that hangover, people, in the kind of like, do we shake hands? Do we not shake hands? What are we doing? This shit never took off. Whatever committee decided that this is now how people will bang elbows, that is the new way humans greet each other, never worked, never took off. And even things that were perfectly normal forms of address now still seem really, really weird. Like you see somebody, for example, and they're looking away from you and you want to get their attention, and this is the way we used to do things for thousands of years, and now it suddenly seems weird because of the hall of mirrors we've lived in for the last 2 years. You'd walk towards them, you know this, sing it along, you know exactly what we used to do. You'd walk towards them, and as you approach them, you know, you get up to them. This is the most normal interaction, a thing we did so often, and now it seems bizarre because the things, and now we look at it, it seems like the weirdest thing in the world, and we did this so often. You remember this? You'd walk towards them, and just to get their attention, you remember this? You just wet your finger, and you shove it in their ear, and then you'd grind your hips up against theirs. And I don't think that's going to come back. It's just another thing we've lost. And then the argument started, and I'm not going to rehash all the arguments. You can probably guess where I am on the arguments, right? But I'm not going to rehash the arguments. I'm going to give you this little thing, though. This little tip, a little bit of advice for you now if you're going to get involved in any of the arguments. And look, and I don't mean arguments. It doesn't have to be about masks and vaccinations and all that shite, right? Okay. I learned a thing, though, in the middle of all that, though. If you're ever in one of those arguments, and in real life or online, right, and somebody comes at you with the whole, well, actually, you know, actually, if we look into it, actually, you know, you do your own research, actually, I think you'll find, I think you'll find, I think you'll find, actually. If you just go, can I stop you there? Then say nothing at all. Stand in complete silence until they take the hint and fuck off. That is my advice to you. So it has been a strange time, and people getting used to the fucking ideas of how it all works and all that, like whatever. It was a slightly weirder time for me on top of all of that, because I spent about 6 months of last year on one of these, right? This is not a huge surprise, by the way, to me. I have a knee injury that I've had for years, had it since I was a teenager. And there's a part of it, because I know that this is a thing, it's a bone thing that's a bit missing, and I'm going to have to, it's going to affect me long term. At some stage, I may need more of this kind of stuff. And there was a part of me going, grand, if that's the case, you know what, you know, I might as well just embrace that, like whatever. If I'm going to get a cane, sure, fuck it. I'm going to buy a cape and a top hat, and you're not even going to ask. No one's going to even notice that I'm on a cane, because they're going, what the fuck, when did Oscar Wilde suddenly walk into the room, right? There is a point in my life where I am going to be looking like Lucius Malfoy. That is the aim, right? I thought, fine, great, I'll go for it. I'll go for the fucking cane in a huge way, like whatever. But the thing that's very, very interesting is that I found out last year is that this is not a cane. What is this? It's a walking stick. You're absolutely right. And for those of you, the majority of you, who didn't answer that question and presumably don't know the difference, a cane is elegant and sophisticated. A cane tapers from the top down to a point. As you walk around with a cane, it goes tip, 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 in a kind of very, very sophisticated way. A walking stick has a fucking rubber stopper on the end. There's nothing classy and sophisticated about a rubber stopper. And you can kid yourself. You can put all of your effort into this end of it. Say, oh, yeah. Oh, you can get dark woods shipped from the forests of Brazil, hand-turned to fit your grip. You can buy genuinely silver skulls. They all sell silver skulls with crystals for eyes. So you can stand there going, ha, 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 I am the devil himself. No, you're not. Rubber stopper. You're Frasier's dad. I spent 6 months on this walking around and could not stop myself going, one singular sensation. No, you're not on Broadway. Rubber stopper. You're the old man from Up. I will say this about the lockdown. A lot of people will all remember it as a difficult time, like whatever. But parents, I think, I should note this, will probably look back over these 2 years and maybe think what an incredible privilege it was. Just... Could I get to the end of the fucking sentence before you do that? What an incredible privilege it was just to spend that amount of time with your own children. I mean, it really was the finest of... And the homeschooling, to be with them as they learnt things hour after hour was such a unique thing that I think it's a privilege we'll never quite recover. I have a 6-year-old, and so he was about 3, 4 when the whole thing was on, and just to be with him as he learnt to read, take those basic steps into a lifelong... such an honour, such a joy to be sitting beside him going, yeah, no, try. Run, you got there yourself. Run. It's run, yeah. Run, yeah, run. Run, say it again. Run, yeah, run. Yeah. It was run on the previous page as well, do you remember that? Every page, run, every page. Do you remember the name of the book? Run, Dog, Run. There's one page left. Spoiler alert. There's a fucking run on that page as well, yes. Some people don't have the temperament for teaching, it turns out. Sometimes it was temperament, sometimes it was topic, right? 11-year-old of mine, so 9, 10 at the time, like whatever, had to write a little essay, a little piece, a little project about the 1800s, the 19th century. And I said, I know loads about that era. Why don't we pool our knowledge and then we'll come up with something and you can send it in. And we did, and we talked about it for a little while, and then he wrote a little essay, and then we submitted it on the platform that they do the work on, like whatever. And then some response came back from the teacher, and it was lukewarm, I felt. And I contacted the teacher and said, you didn't seem very impressed. And the teacher said, well, his peers, his cohorts, his classmates all wrote very positive pieces about the Industrial Revolution and Queen Victoria. And your son's piece was much more angry about potatoes and hunger. Some people had a very different 19th century. Where were we? Okay. This thing with the knee, I should explain slightly better, like the reason I had to go and the reason I screwed up when I was on the court is because I've got a bit missing from my femur and had to go to a doctor about this, and he said, yes, he said, I'm afraid you've got a hole in your thigh bone, which means we're going to have to break your calf bone. I went, what, to send a fucking message? Exactly is the thinking behind this situation. That's a pretty nice knee you've got. Shame if anything were to happen to it. There is, I said, no, we have to rebalance your leg because otherwise sometimes we might have to replace the knee. And I said, with what? I said. He said, with a titanium version of a knee. And I went, oh. And he was like, what were you hoping I was going to say? I don't know, a big spring like Inspector Gadget. So I had to go to this doctor, and this all had to happen quite quickly. This all happened to happen at a bit of a mad rush, and so the way it works in the UK, and I know it's different in this history here, is that look, there's two stratas. There's the NHS, which is an excellent public health system. My wife works in the NHS. Glory, very, very good thing. And then if you want something done quickly, if you've a bit of a rush, like you've got a tour starting in 3 months' time, and you're really up against deadline, you throw money at the problem. And it's the same doctors, though. It's the same doctors who appear in the NHS and privately when you pay them, like whatever. Same operation, same knee. You don't get a shot. Like if you go into the NHS for a knee replacement, it's still a titanium knee. They don't go, oh no, that's just for private. No, you get Lego. You get Lego knee. And for the springy bit, we put one of those chewy dog toys in between the two bits. And, I mean, it works, but you will attract dogs. It'll go squeak, squeak, woof, woof for the rest of your life. Squeak, squeak, woof, woof, fuck off. But the only difference is you're directly paying the money. And when you're directly paying the money, the change in tone from how they talk to you in the NHS to how they is astonishing. They will move heaven and earth not to call you fat. The amount of euphemisms this man used, I began to write them down. I was enjoying it so much. He would say things like, well, he said, you're a very solid man, he said at one stage. And I said, I fucking am. I am there for you. If you need me at any time, you call this number 24/7 and I will be there for you, right? And once he said, well, your injury, said, is very much an issue of load, he said at one stage. And I was enjoying this game so much, I was going, I don't understand, doctor. Explain it to me again, as if I were a child. And he went, well, he said, it's an injury we often see in men of your silhouette. So they went into the whole thing, and then they opened me up, and there's loads of titanium in there now, and all has to be taken out again, like whatever. And then you go into the second stage, which is you got to do physio for it, and that's a bit that people really hate. They really hate the whole physio of it all. Having to repeat the same exercise repeatedly over and over again for 3 months, and that gives a bum rap, I think, to physios. I'm very fond of physios, right? And nothing to do with the post-operative thing. Hello to anyone who works in that particular field. Because I'm a big guy, like whatever, so I will often twang my back, get it like a back spasm type thing, and I'll go for a massage, right? And I'm very pro that, of physical therapy and all that. And, you'd go to a hotel spa, whatever, and get a massage done. And then somebody said to me, oh, no, you're missing the trick. No, go to a physio. You go to a physio for a massage, it is an entirely different experience, right? And, is it ever a different experience? Because if you go to a physio, they waste no time asking you what your favorite oil is. Or what temperature you would like the stones to be as they place them on your back, or what your favorite whale music is as you like to relax. A physio will simply go, walk from there to there. Yeah, no, I can see where the problem is. Lie down. It's fucking here! It's right fucking here! And you're there going, Jesus, could you fucking ease me in? Could you do me shoulders or something? Just to introduce me into the... Jesus Christ! A physio wastes no time going, and I'm going to go down your arm, and then I'm going to go down your other arm. None of that, right? A physio just goes, this is where the problem is. I do this for 20 minutes, and you can fuck off. That's it. And once you've gone into that route, once you've taken up doing that for physio, you can't go back. You can't go back to the fucking hotel spa with all the white towels and the robes and the gentle, relaxing thing. It is too far. It's too far gone. And I always feel very sorry for people who work in those, like legitimate masseuses who work in that industry. It's really important. Physical therapy is really useful for lots of people. And I always feel bad anyway for that industry because it's the only part of medicine that has a weird overlap with the sex industry. Because the sex industry has taken the word massage to mean whatever the hell it wants. And that must be really irritating if you legitimately work in massage, because it causes misunderstandings. I have been that soldier. I was in Australia in my 20s. I twanged my back. I had to go into it. I was looking for somewhere to get a massage. I remember walking around the streets in Adelaide going, does anyone know somewhere that does massage? And a young woman my own age goes, oh, yeah, there's a massage place over there. And I said, oh, OK, grand. And I went in, presuming this is legitimate. She's a woman in her 20s as well. She wouldn't send me anywhere dodgy. And I walked in, and I said, hello, you do massage? And the woman goes, yes, we do massage. I said, how much is it? She goes, it's $100 for massage or $150 for fantasy. And little light bulbs, little little red flags are beginning to appear, little warning lights in my head. And I said, I'm sorry, what is fantasy? Hoping she's going to go, well, in fantasy, we dress up as orcs. And then we stomp around you, reading out runes and incantations in an ancient elvish language. And then we have a sword fight. And then we take a 20-sided dice. And we roll the 20-sided dice. And if you score 18 or more, we wank you off. So I said, no, what is fantasy? And she goes, well, in fantasy, the masseuse takes off her top. And I instantly reverted to every gombeen Irish man innocent abroad. I went, oh, Jesus, no, no, stop. What? No, Sacred Heart, I can't. Oh, God, the nuns, what would my mother say? I totally turned into this, sort of backing away out of the situation, going, oh, Jesus, no, no, Jesus, no. No, can't be doing that now, Dad, can't be doing that, right, no, sorry. Right, I said, no, I can't. And she said, why? I said, look, no judgy, you do you, that's you do you, right? But no, that's not what I'm after. And she said, why? I said, no, I've genuinely hurt my back, I genuinely is in spasm, like whatever, and I need a proper massage. And God love her, the woman running this rub and tug joint in Adelaide looked at me and went, we can give it a go. No, honey, this is not your wheelhouse. It's quite all right. There is no other field of medicine that overlaps in that awkward way with the sex industry. You've never gone in for a dental appointment. And they said, yes, absolutely, you just wait in there, and you sat in that vinily S-shaped chair with a lamp above you and the spitting thing, and you're just sitting there waiting. And the dentist comes in and goes, are you my 3 o'clock? And you go, yes, I am. And he goes, okay, let's start. And the music begins to play, and the dentist begins to sway in a sexy way in front of you. And you're there going, wait a minute. Are you a sexy dentist? And the dentist is going, yes, is that not what you wanted? No! I genuinely have a toothache. And the dentist goes, I can give it a go. No! The bad thing about that knee injury, is that, and the only really, because you can see I can walk and do shows, it's grand, right? But I will never now officially, never do Strictly Come Dancing. I know. Oh, kills me as well. There's a fucking payday lost, right? But the main reason it breaks my heart is that I have a 14-year-old daughter, and that is a glorious thing to have in your life. A strong, powerful young woman. My God, they are impressive and amazing, and it's glorious. I'm so proud of her. But Jesus, they're fucking strong and difficult, and sometimes a challenge to have any control or purchase over a young teenage girl. And for a long time, the only disciplinary power I have over that young woman is to go, stop it. You will stop it. Or I will go on Strictly Come Dancing. And you will watch me dance. And I will dance hard. I will get to Latin Week. You see that I don't get to Latin Week, and you will have to watch that. And if that doesn't work, if she doubles down, I go, you better apologize to your mother. Or not only will I go on Strictly Come Dancing, I will record an introductory VT in your school. You won't know the day that you'll be at assembly minding your own business when your headmistress will go, well, girls, we've quite the treat for you this morning. And you'll go, huh? And then you'll hear, bam, ba, dam, bam, bam, ba. And you go, no! And then I'll come out and like her going, honey, it's Daddy dancing. Why aren't you watching? She doesn't seem to be watching. Honey, it's me, it's Daddy over here. Look over here. Does she not know? Tell her it's Daddy dancing over here. Honey, am I not beautiful? Watch me dance. Say hello to new mummy. One of the things, though, that I realized over the last while, I'm now 50, right? One of the things that I've realized, though, as you get a little older, and you're a young crowd, I'm looking at your young crowd, you might not get this just yet, is that there is a thing that, much like my knee, I don't think any of us get to the finishing line of this race. Get to the last stages of this race we all run in life. Get to the very end bit, 100% intact. I don't think any of us at the end couldn't run an inventory of bits of us that we don't have because they never arrived, they fell off, or they had to be removed, right? I think there's a surprising amount of redundancy built into the human body that we simply put up with, and it's amazing how little of us actually gets to the end, right? For example, I'm missing this bit of knee here. When I say I'm missing this bit of knee here, it's not in my knee. It was taken out in 2005, but they gave it to me. It's in a little jar at home. I can rattle it around. I have it at home, right? At some point in the next 15 years, they'll take the entire joint out and put another joint in. And I don't know if they still do that, but I hope is that they will give me the joint. They'll wash it off and give me the joint, and I can reunite it with the bit that was taken in 2005, and then slowly rebuild myself outside of my own body, reassemble my skeleton separate to myself. So I'm missing that bit of wing. I'm also, for example, only have 3 wisdom teeth because the 4th one never appeared. The first 3, space had to be made for all of them, and the other teeth had to be removed to let the wisdom teeth fill in, and the 4th wisdom tooth clearly went, oh, that's a hassle. And then just regressed into my body and never appeared, and I've never seen it, right? Slightly more seriously, when I was 18 years old, I went into hospital for an orchidectomy. An orchidectomy is a surgical investigation for an undescended testicle, okay? Because orchid is a medical name for testicle, which truly speaks of a fucked up meeting of the Royal Society of Medicine sometime in the 1750s when they were handing out names for things. Load of people in black suits and long beards going, well, gentlemen, we've done wonderful work today. We've named the medulla oblongata, we've named the clavicle, and we've named the gluteus maximus. But now we must name a more delicate region of the body, a more private region of the body, a genital region of the body. And the voice at the back goes, perhaps I can help. Oh, Dr. Foufou Floof. Is there something you wish to add? I would merely say, if we are to name this most delicate, most private region of the body after the thing it most resembles, then we should name it after a flower. Because like a flower, this part of the body, at the start of the day, its petals are closed. And as they slowly open over the course of the day, its sweet scent permeates the air around, drawing you in until you bury your face into the flower and you taste upon your tongue the sweet nectar. If we are to name it after the flower, we should name it after the most beautiful flower of all. We should name it after the orchid. Oh, fantastic. Excellent idea. Big hairy balls, orchid. Okay. No, I did not mean the balls. I meant on the lady. I was talking about the lady. Oh, I've already pressed send. So I went into hospital for an orchidectomy, right? Which meant at 18, I sat with the doctor to discuss the possibility of having one testicle and asked all the scared questions. And I like telling you the story because there'll be other men in this room who, because of cancer, because of other reasons, may have to face this, right? And I went and I asked him various questions. I said, look, oh my God, one testicle, how is that going to affect me? Fundamentally, as an 18-year-old, you're going, I'm scared. I'm going, geez, is that going to affect my sex drive? And he said, no, it won't affect your sex drive in any way. And it does not, okay? And then I said to him, is that going to affect my fertility? And I said, no, it won't. And it does not. But even as an 18-year-old went, hang on, that seems like there's a lot of redundancy built into this system. And the doctor went, yes, there really is. There's literally 50% redundancy built into that entire system. There's absolutely, it's really quite funny how much redundancy is built into this. And I looked at him and said, is there any way in which having one testicle is worse than having 2 testicles? And I'll always remember this. The doctor looked at me and he said, yes. Unlike somebody who has 2 testicles, if you only have 1 testicle, you'll have no depth perception in your testicles. And when you jizz, you'll have no idea if you've jizzed big and far away or small and relatively nearby. I fucking love that joke, all right? I am stepping out of the show to tell you that is my fucking favorite joke of the show. Because that's quite a personal admission to make, but that fucking joke pays it off every fucking night, right? Here's the reason why I think that fucking joke about the testicles is amazing, because half the room never get it. There's half the room who don't get that joke, who haven't got that joke, who still haven't got the fucking depth perception joke, and are going, I don't fucking get it. Well, Google it. 2 eyes, 1 eye. Fucking look it up afterwards, right? Here's what happened to me. They opened me up looking for that other testicle. They didn't find it. So for 32 years, I've had a testicle and a tooth wandering round my body. Having a series of adventures Probably off solving crimes together. They probably met up and they travel around the body. There's been a murder in the spleen. Quick, call Bitey and the Shutter. They'll be able to sort it out. Hey, boss, why do you call him the Shutter? Give him a poke. You'll find out soon enough. Boom. It has no effect on your life. 2 seconds ago, one has no effect on your life. No effect on your life. On other people, it does have an effect. So if you think back to when you're 18 and you're in your first intimate relationships, like whatever, and then you break up with that partner and they go off with somebody else for the first time, and do you remember that sensation of going, oh, it won't be the same for them. They won't be happy when they're with somebody else. They won't feel secure like they did with me. They won't feel as loved as they did with me. It won't be as nice for them as it was with me. They won't feel secure. And people bounce back, it turns out, really fucking quickly, right? They're grand, right? However, that I know that I was the first intimate partner of, I can name 2 women specifically, right, that I was their first intimate partner. And I know that when they broke up, they would have gone on to other relationships. And then they would have met with their partners and been intimate with their partner for the first time. And they would have gone, fucking hell! How many fucking testicles do you have exactly? Jesus, they're coming at me from every direction. Does your cock have the mumps? So, I'm sitting at home watching the television not long ago, just myself and the kids watching the television, when my wife puts her head around the door and says, Dara, can you come in here, please? So I walk into the room, and I say, what? What is it? And she goes, can you help me fold these sheets? I said, are you out of your fucking mind? Fold these sheets. Jesus Christ, woman, what's wrong with you? I'm not going to fucking fold sheets. What the hell is up with you? She said, what do you mean? I said, if you want me to fold sheets, you walk in and say, Dara, can you help me fold some sheets? You don't walk in and press the nuclear button of Dara. Can you come in here, please? God, the heart has gone sideways in me. I'm walking over here going, what has she found? What has she found? Oh, my God. I'm worried you'll go in, you'll be holding a brown paper bag filled with banknotes that you found behind a load of towels in a cupboard somewhere, or a door to a basement that you didn't know the house had. At the very least, be holding my laptop, if you're going to say, Dara, can you come in here now, please? Jesus, I'm going back to watch television with the kids, and she goes, what about this bag of money? Another time! Here's the thing, by the way, here's the thing I quite enjoy, is I travel around and do this in loads of different countries, that I gather together different reactions that different places have to different routines. And here's the most confusing one I have ever had. I have done that 25 times here, that particular routine, and about 35 times across the UK and across Europe, like whatever. And every time I say the words, Dara, can you come in here, please, in Ireland, people do the same thing you all did, which go, oh, you're caught now. And every time in the UK and across Europe, I go, Dara, can you come in here, please? The entire audience goes, oh, I wonder what she needs him for. It's the most bewildering thing to me. Here, you're totally across it. You're going, oh, you've been up to something. You've been so strapping. Whereas they're going, oh, well, the rest of this anecdote must take place in the other room. Surely everywhere needs a phrase that you say so the other parent gets what has to happen and there's some serious, and that the kids don't get it. Surely we all need one of those kind of phrases, like whatever. Because you can't have the kids hearing everything, like whatever. No, not that they always pay attention to it. This is one of the weirdest things about parenting. Kids are really different in how they react to stuff happening around them, like whatever. And even within the same family. For example, my young lad, sweetest man boy in the world, but geez, I could sit next to him, lift up my shirt, show you a scar that goes from tit to hip, go, this is where they opened me up, they took everything out, there's nothing left, I'll be dead in a week. And he would not look up from the Nintendo Switch for the entire time I was having that conversation. I was the boy. I was always like the boy. I was blind to stuff that was happening in the family. All the history of all that went right past me. I paid no attention. All the way up until I was in my 30s, like 33. I was moved over to London, and my dad came over to have a, do something. I said, look, well, I'll bring you for dinner. And I brought him for dinner, and we sat in a restaurant. It's not our style to sit in restaurants and all. It all felt very starchy and formal and uncomfortable, right? And I thought, well, screw it. If we're going to be uncomfortable, let's be uncomfortable. I'm going to ask everything now. This is the opportunity for me to find out all the stuff that's been told to me as a fairy tale or as a euphemism or has been glossed over. Let's find out everything. All of the stuff like, did the dog really go and live on a farm that time? And Auntie Mary and her nerves. Is that not just, that's a fairly common one, and her nerves, right? And we strain that metaphor a lot. Oh, from what I hear, her nerves are at her earlier and earlier every day. Well, I hear she's hiding her nerves around the house. So I said, let's ask. And that's the thing that all parents and children should have. At some stage, you have to have a conversation with your child or with the parent in which you exchange, you genuinely get the unvarnished history of the family. All the stuff that you should know and is now your turn to carry through, all the stuff that you should actually, all the truth about things, right? It's very important. It's also very important that the child decides when they're ready to know that stuff. It's very important that the child decides that I am now mature enough to take on all this information. It is not up for the parent to unilaterally decide, no, they should know this stuff now. They're old enough to know. By the way, you should know, your mother and I love dogging. I just felt you should know now. And in unrelated news, the car is unavailable this weekend. So I just thought I'd tell you that. So I sat my dad down and we chatted about everything, like whatever. And I chatted about the pets and animals and family and illnesses and all stuff. And then I built up to the thing I was building up to ask. And I looked at my father and I said, am I adopted? He said. And then my father looked at me and said, yeah, did you forget? I said, did you tell me? And he said, we told you all the time. We told you, we're told to tell you. It's not supposed to be a secret if you adopt a child. I am adopted, right? It's not supposed to be a secret. It's not supposed to come out in a restaurant in London when you're 33. It's supposed to be a perfectly normal thing within the family history that you all know, right? Okay. And I said, well, what? And then he said, well, that was a really sweet thing. He said, we just got bored of telling you. Because I'm sure this happens if you adopt a child. You're supposed to normalise it and do all that. But at some point, you'll be going, oh, God, do I have to keep saying this? And will I be always going, oh, well done on your leaving cert results. You're adopted. At some point, you want to go, can I just move on this, like, whatever. So they stopped telling me and it never embedded in. It was always a vague sort of memory that I had, like, whatever. He said, no, it's not a secret. Jeez, not at all. I'll send you all the documents. I'll send you all of our documents about it. And so he sends me the documents. And I'm there suddenly at 33 with all this stuff going, oh, my God, I have this whole other story that I should do something about. And I did what men do. This is a broad generalization, but it seems to be the case. I did what men do when they find out something like this, which is nothing. Fucking nothing. Women immediately go into tracing and texting and tracking and all that stuff. Men go, here's a fucking story I'll tell you when I'm drunk. Did you know I'm adopted? And do nothing about it. And for like 12, 13 years, I did nothing at all. I had a family, I had other things to worry about. I didn't think about it at all, right? And then I went to see Philomena. Now, you know the film, Judi Dench and all that, like whatever, the story about how she gave a child up for adoption. Let's put the quotation marks around that, like whatever, because it wasn't quite as willing as you might imagine. Gave a child for adoption and then spent her life looking to find her son. The story of Philomena Lee, right, like whatever. And I walked out of that cinema going, oh, you fucking idiot. It's not just you. It's not just your story. There's a woman who gave a baby up for adoption 45 years ago, and she would also like to know what happened here, like whatever. And I'd never thought of it. I'd never thought of it. Now, I've met Steve Coogan, who wrote the film, to say thank you. I've never met Judi Dench. We move in different circles. She's more of a biker chick. Hey, Judy, fuck you. She's gone, right? But nonetheless, I came out going, oh my God, I must do something about this. Now, this is the point, by the way, when I tell the story, especially abroad, where I give a little bit of potted history about it, which obviously now we're in Ireland, you don't really need that because it's on prime time 3 times a week, right? So... But it should be pointed out, my friend from Chicago, for example, in our history, there are many things we've done very, very well. But reproductive rights and sexual issues, not one of them. We've not been great. A lot of shit that you'd be surprised at was illegal in this country until surprisingly recently, right? And that includes contraception, comes abortion. Even adoption itself was illegal in Ireland until 1952, which meant there's a whole history of Ireland of between 50 and 100,000 illegally adopted children for whom we have no paperwork, and we can't track the adoptions at all because there was nothing they could do. They couldn't fucking adopt them, and they were passed off as family members. All these kind of mad things were happening, right? And even when it became legal, 2,000 Irish babies were sold to America. Were sold to American soldiers who were based in the UK after the war and came over here and picked up a Catholic baby for themselves and went back to America. It happened so often that in the mid-50s, the American government complained. Not the Irish government, whose citizens were being sold, but the American government, what's with the fucking babies, And the Irish government, oh, we'll just look into that. And the guards went, oh, yeah, we must investigate that. And spoke to one woman called Mary Keating, who ran a nursing home here, and other people around it, and kind of did nothing about it for 10 years, until the American government complained again in the mid-60s, said, what's with the fucking babies? And they said, we were right on that. We were just going to deal with that situation. And they went back to Mary Keating and said to Mary Keating, oh, no, you're the one, right? And they gave her a 9-month probationary sentence. And she remains the only person ever convicted in Ireland of selling 2,000 Irish babies to America and giving them fake passports and fake birth certs, right? This one woman apparently did it all, right? Mary Keating, right? And then moved on from there. So in other words, not only have we got that, we've also got the shame. I don't explain to you, but shame in Ireland the last 100 years. And so it cuts across the entire society. So when you're doing the search, it could be anything. It could be from anywhere. It could be from a ditch, it could be from a castle, any strata. I could have any name, which is head-wrecking in itself, right? Because I like my name. I like the Irish language, right? But it may not be the most helpful name in an international showbiz career. With a line over the O and an extra I, it's kind of more complicated in an industry surrounded by Jimmy Carrs and Jack D's that I'm there going, and if I eventually find my birth cert and it just says my original birth name is Paddy Chuckles, that would be incredibly irritating. But nonetheless, I start the search and I contact TUSLA. TUSLA are the agency in Ireland who deal with, have taken all the records of all these adoptions on board, like whatever. So I contact them, I said, I'd like my information. And they go, of course, absolutely, just get in contact with them. You have a quick sip of water here, lads. And they say, get in contact with us. And I said, send us a freedom of information request. And I said, absolutely. So I contact TUSLA. I said, I'd like all the information. Here's a freedom of information request. Tap, 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 tap. And then a month later, an envelope appears. And you go, oh my God, this is it. This is how I actually find out who I am, my actual origin story, why I come from. Oh my God, this is incredible. Like, and the big envelope appears. And you're going, this is amazing. This is going to be a big deal, like whatever. I'm going to find out my actual mother's name. And even on the very front page, you're going, oh my God, there it is. St. Patrick's Guild, Registered Adoption Society, applicant name. It's right there, somewhere underneath the massive black redacted box. And every page of this comes with all the useful information blacked out. There's no actual information here, and it's all blacked out. And then once you get past these, there's just pages with the word redacted and a massive X across them. And you're probably thinking, oh, does that represent all the redacted pages? No, no, they did one for each page. They see. And I'm just showing you 3 of them. There was 40 of them in the box. Redacted, redacted, redacted. It came with an email from this government agency going, we hope this is of some comfort to you. You're right, this has really brought comfort to me in the search for my own identity, right? And then after these, there comes a page, which is this page. And this is in modern font, and this is a Word document. And this is basically somebody's gone through this and has collated the information that I'm allowed to have, right? And this is interesting because it has like my name and my date of birth and has the date of my adoption, which is the 24th of March, 1972. So remember that, 24th of March, 1972, right? And then at the very bottom, amidst all this detail, it has family background details. Your birth mother was 26 years old when she gave birth to you. She was originally from the west of Ireland. She had 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and she worked as a housekeeper in a hotel. Your birth father was 27 years old at the time, originally from the west of Ireland. He was a medical student. They'd known each other for 2 years. Now, I've read that paragraph out to audiences about 60, 70 times already in many different places, and the reaction is always the same. Audiences are all going, oh, the glasses are new. Well, none of us are getting any younger. But also, audiences go, that's very private information. Sure, why would you tell us that information? You don't even know a star. There's no reason for that. Please don't worry in any way. Most of this is false. Most of this information isn't accurate in any way. They just put down stuff. They put down any kind of stuff, either to cover themselves or because they just wanted to fill it in or because they thought, oh, shit, we have something down. It's only a baby. When will the baby look it up? You know, they might grow up. There was no sense of obligation to the future in this, like whatever. Medical student, well, not a medical student, turns out. None of that's true, like whatever. I genuinely think put down things like, was a medical student to make the baby seem more appealing to possible adopters. In a kind of a, well, they may have strayed from the path morally, but medical student, you know, there's brains there, you know. They might as well have written, the father was a star lord who came down from the heavens and impregnated an earth woman, and his baby is a gift from the cosmos, right? So this is clear down. This is a government document. There are 12 lines on this. 8 of them contain mistakes. The coup de grace, the cherry on the top is they've misspelt Dara Ó Briain twice. So you're kind of going, right, lads, that's not good enough. What have you got? What have you got for me? And they said, well, we'll send you a social worker, right? This is early in 2017. August of 2019, I'm walking down the street in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Festival when the thought suddenly strikes me, hang on, aren't I waiting for a social worker from TUSA, the Irish Agency about Adoption, right? It literally been so long, I had forgotten I was adopted a second time. That is how long. And I rang up and said, hi, this is Dara Ó Briain. I was waiting for a social worker, and not a word of a lie, your man goes, yeah, you're next on the list. Because TUSA is run like a minicab company. And if you ring them up, they go, yeah, no, she's just coming around the corner now, actually. Yeah, keep an eye out. She'll beep the horn twice, tell you. Just keep an eye out. She's just coming around the road there now. So I meet with the social worker, and credit where it's due is excellent. For one thing, give you a more measured sense of expectation about the entire thing. Said, look, you're quite old. They will also be quite old. I haven't looked at the file. They might not still be alive, or they might be infirm, or they might have Parkinson's or anything. Who knows what the situation is? Or they may not simply wish this box to be opened after 47 years. It might be shocking to them, like whatever, and they may not wish to be contacted in any way. Many of these stories, she said, don't end with you all sitting in a pub having pints, right? That's the reality of it, like whatever. And then she'd say things like, look, we've been in contact with the nurses who worked in the nursing home. They took photographs of the babies they looked after. Maybe there's a photograph of you when you're an infant there. And I said, oh my God, that'd be amazing. Because I feel a weird kind of disconnect with this child of this other name, like whatever. I'd love to see a photograph. And the next time I met her, I said, was there a photograph? And she said, no. She said, no. And then unnecessarily, I feel, said, you must have been a very cranky baby. And I would, well, I'd recently been given up for adoption, so I may have been reacting badly to the situation. But she said, look, I've looked at the file. I've looked at the file, and I can send the letter. I've got the contact details for your birth mail. I can send the letter. I said, what's the letter? She said, well, the letter is, she says, almost a cliche in this country at this stage, so we don't actually use it even that often. But there's a letter you send, and it's quite subtle in how it's worded. It's basically, you send a letter, so it doesn't give anything away, right? It'll say, dear, I recently met, birth name, who you knew in Dublin 47 years ago, and they were wondering if you wanted to meet up, like whatever. And it means if somebody else in the family picks it up, it doesn't give anything away, right? And I thought, wow, that's so much better, I said, than my plan. And she said, what was your plan? I said, I was going to break into the house while they were out and sit in a chair in the front room with the lights out and a lamp beside me. And they would come in and go, God, it's very dark. And I'd turn on the lamp and they'd be blinded. And I'd go, do you love me now, Mammy? She said, no, let's do the letter instead, shall we? Come. But nonetheless, I'm there going, well, look, you've got the file. Can I see the file? And she says, no, you can't see the file. It's against the law for you to see the file. As it was at the time, it's against the law. It's against the law for you to have your birth cert. It was against the law for Irish adopted people to have any information about themselves. And that's not the case normally internationally. In the UK, if you're adopted, you can just demand your birth cert, your real birth cert. You can find it any time. Even if you're Irish adopted into the UK, you can demand your birth cert. But for Irish people, for the longest of time, you weren't allowed, because the veil of secrecy in Ireland must always be maintained, right? So it was illegal to find your birth cert. There were, however, quasi-legal means. All of the birth certs in Ireland are contained in one building, the General Registrar's Office, which is an office that contains births, deaths, and marriages and all the records of them, and it's in Dublin Castle. To get into it, I'd have to lower myself down a ventilation shaft. If guards come, I hit the biggest one first, then the smallest one. In the confusion, I escape. More prosaically, the General Registrar's of the GRO is in a prefabricated building outside the walls of Dublin Castle, across the road from Burdock's Fish and Chip Shop. And this is a difficult one to explain to people internationally. A prefabricated building, they will instantly understand, is the kind of building parents stand in front of on 6-1 News complaining that the Department of Education haven't given them money for a permanent school yet for the kids, right? That fucking building, that building, right? So, It's in one of those buildings, and you walk into it, and it's like a little library. There's loads of desks and people doing research on genealogy projects or local history, like whatever, and there's historians running around, and somebody's pushing a trolley to collect the box up, and with a squeaky wheel, and that's moving around, like whatever. And the books are on shelves, and they're exactly what you hope the books would look like, that contain all births and deaths. They're like big, thick, leather-bound books with 1937 death written across it, like something from a Harry Potter library that you'd open up and spells would spill out of them, like there. And then you go into them, and they go, "What do you want?" You go, "Well, I'm looking for a birth cert," and they instantly know what you're doing. You're the 10,000th person who's come this particular path, and they know, and they can't directly help you, but they will go like things like, "Well, here's an interview. What information do you have?" And you'll go, "Well, I have this first name and this date of birth." And they go, "Oh, well, how interesting." If you look at the list of people born and you look at the list of the pages, you'll find there's a first name and a date of birth, and then there's a maiden name and a married name. And if the maiden name and the married name are the same, in other words, if there's no record of the father at all, that's an adopted child. If you go to all the lists in Ireland, if you go to and the two names are the same, that's an adopted child. Pick whatever Catholic imagery you want. If it's a virgin birth, according to the book, that there's no man involved, that's an adopted child. And they tell you that, and then they go, "Just a piece of information. Don't know if it's any use to you. Good luck now." They walk away, right? So they very subtly give you an orientation meeting, and then you go through the books. You take the book off the shelf, you open it up, and you go name by name by name by name. There are 3 books for 1972, 1,300 pages in each book, and there's 30 names on each page, and you go through every name of that page, right? And it's like a montage where the camera's on your shoulder, and then slowly the camera pulls away, but it doesn't fucking pull away because it's not a montage, you're actually doing it. You're sitting there for 2.5 hours per book, slowly going through every name in the book. The only thing that keeps you going is because it's everyone born in the year you were born, every 50 pages or so, somebody from your class in school. Or the girl you went to a Debs with, or somebody you played underage football with, names just pop up from your past. It's quite sweet, right? And then you're just turning the pages other than that, like whatever. And it takes 2.5 hours, you get to the end of the first book, nothing there. Picked up the second book, let's open that one again. Names, names, names. I did about an hour of that before somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "We're closing. We're closing for the afternoon. You're going to have to come back tomorrow." I said, "Okay, this is longer than I thought. I'll come back tomorrow." And I come back the following morning, got the second book again, opened it up again. Name by name by name by name, got all the way through the second book, got to the last bit. There are 10 pages missing at the end of the second book. From O'Murchu to O'Marisa, little tranche of Irish language names, and I thought, okay, the chances are really slim that I'm in that section, but I'll write them down, who knows. Went to the third book. On the third book, your eyes are beginning to glaze, because you're seeing names and dates and names and dates and names and dates, and also there's a voice in your head going, "You fucked this up. You're already 2/3 of the way in and you've not seen anything. The chances are you've already missed this." And she might not respond to the letter. This might be the only chance you get to find out who your birth mother actually is, and you've already blown it. And that goes louder as you go through the pages, because you're missing, you're going, "Oh my God." And by the time you get to the end of the book, the voice is going, "You're fucking idiot. You're not the only Z baby in Ireland in 1972. You're clearly not in this," right? And you get to the end of the book and I wasn't there. And I thought, oh my God, have I blown this? Have I made a mess of this? Because this might be the only way I can find this information out. And I remember picking the third book and walking back to the desk, and the woman was there going, "Did you not find what you needed?" And I said, No, I didn't actually. But then I said, "But there were 10 names missing from book 2. She said, "Oh God, I'm sorry, where were they?" I said, "Well, they're from O'Murchu to O'Maurice." And she said, "Give me a minute." And she went off, and then she came back and she said, "Look, I started the search a few pages earlier. I went a few names later than that, like whatever. And I've done a search, but look, this is the printout. There are only a couple of people who are adopted. I don't think you're..." And I looked at the thing, it's a different name, different date of birth. I said, "No, it's not me, but thank you very much anyway." And I turned away to walk. And then a thought struck me. And I turned back and said, "I'm sorry, are these all on a computer back there?" And could I not have just looked them up on the computer? And not a word of a lie, the woman looked at me and said, Dara, that'd be too easy." And look, I get it. You shouldn't just be able to walk into somewhere as important as that and go, "Hello, I'd like to perform identity theft. Do you have Roy Keane's birth cert? This is his date of birth." You have to show willingness and show you genuinely want this information, so I get it. But nonetheless, it's heartbreaking because I haven't found the thing I want. And I have to walk back to the bag, my desk, pick up my bag, and I'm putting the ruler in and the pencil and my bottle of water in, like whatever, and I'm finishing up, like whatever. And then I hear the squeaky wheel of the trolley being pushed behind me. And I remember shunting up to let the trolley go past. And as the trolley went past, the person pushing it stops and not a word of a lie, leans in and goes, "Have another look under P," and then walks on. Now, I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth. So I go back to the desk, and the woman's there going, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yes. Can I have another look at that third book?" She said, "Absolutely no problem at all," she said, because she sent them over. She said, "Get over there for fuck's sakes." Because the day earlier, I had told her my first name and my date of birth, and she'd just gone back and gone, "Tap, tap, tap. Oh, he'll find that tomorrow." And had watched me go through the entire process. And then at the end is going, "Oh, the fucking idiot has missed it. How has he not? Jesus, do I have to do everything for these people? He can't find his own fucking name in a list of names. What is wrong with these people? Go out and say P. Go out and fucking say P. He's going. Go out and say P. Quickly, for Jesus' sake." So now I'm adrenalized. I got the book out, I open it out, I'm missing nothing. I'm going through, there's a P, nothing on page 1, nothing on page 3. There's a name there, there's a date of birth, there's 2 names the same. Hang on, is this it? And I remember writing down the number, like, I'm walking back to the desk and she's there going, "Do you have something for me?" "You fucking know I do." "You know well I have something for you." And I handed her the card and she said, "Give me a minute now." You're going, "You fucking idiot, you printed it out yesterday. Why are you spending the time doing this?" Like, but she walks back and foots around for a couple of minutes and then genuinely comes back with this, my actual birth cert. And she gives it to me, and it's all folded up, and I can't open it. I can't open it there in front of them. It's too much of a thing. It's too big a deal, right? And I remember having to leave, get my bag and leave and go back to the hotel staying in, get a drink for myself or have a glass of whiskey or something, and then settle nerves and open it up, and there I saw it, like whatever. There's my working title, as I like to call it, my original name. There, for the very first time, is my mother's maiden name. The first time I'd ever seen that, like whatever. And then as I'm taking that in, the information I was looking for, there's other stuff on this, because it's like one of these forms, like a passport form or birth cert, and on it, there's a thing that I wasn't expecting at all, like whatever, which is witness to the birth. Now, it's difficult. You can't read it from there, and you couldn't read it on camera there, but they give you an explanation in the GR. They write the thing out more clearly. So the witness to my birth was Mary Keating. The woman who's given a probationary sentence for selling babies after the 9 months went back to running a nursing home and carried on running a nursing home into the 70s, was in attendance at my birth. I could have been an American. And I like that joke, but I think that's Mary Keating off the hook a little bit in that situation, right? But still, I've got that form, and I'm going, "Oh my God, what's the detective work I have to do now? Because I've got to find out more stuff." But actually, the same weekend, I get a call from the social worker going, "I've made contact with your birth mother. She's shocked that you got in contact after all this time. She's very, very nervous about meeting up, but she will meet up." So in January 2020, we sat in a room in the Shelbourne Hotel with her on one couch, me on the other, and we chatted and we exchanged photographs and we talked about family history, and it was awkward and it was strange and it was a bit like, just difficult to, and we spent 2 hours together. And the 2 hours we spent together matched exactly the total amount of time she was allowed to spend with me when I was a baby. She was given an hour on the day, and the following day she kicked and screamed to get another hour. And then the day after that, she was told, "No, he's already gone for an adoption. So you can't see him, you'll have to leave," right? Now, when was I adopted? 24th of March. I was born in early February, 6 weeks before that. But she didn't have the money to stay, so they kicked her out. That's what happened. That's how cruel the system was at the time, right? And then COVID came in, right? After we had that meeting, COVID came in, and then we carried on conversation on the phone, but I couldn't travel over to Ireland for a year and a half. And then last September, when the regulations got lifted, I flew back into Ireland, and I met herself, and I met the husband she'd met after she had me, and I met 3 sisters and a brother, and we sat in a pub, and we had pints. In fact, we sat in a pub which has been in the family for generations and which is technically mine. Yeah, I'll have a Bulmers, thanks. Oh, do you not have Bulmers? Oh, that'll fucking change. And while I say the initial meeting was awkward, we've spoken on the phone many times after that, so we were actually able to chat much more fluidly and much more normally. And I said things to her, look, how did you tell the husband? How did you tell the husband? She said, I have no idea. We were on the piss. I must have just told him, because I woke up the following day and he was Googling you. And the brother, I've never had a brother in my life. The brother said that he was played in a rugby team, and in his 30s they were doing a thing where they were raising money for a cancer charity, and for 6 weeks they all had to shave their heads to raise money for this cancer charity, kind of and for the 6 weeks that his head was shaven, people kept coming up to him going, do you know what? You are the fucking spit of your man off the television. And they have very nicely become just another branch of the family that I have to remember for cards and phone calls and keep in touch with them and all that. It has been a very positive thing for me. It hasn't been forever, because the situation remains that up until very recently you weren't allowed to get your information at all. This ridiculous veil of secrecy descended, and people fought hard. People fought very hard to change the laws about this. And I contacted one of those groups, the Adoption Rights Alliance, and I said, look, I'm willing to help. Now that I'm out about this thing, I'm very willing to help you about this, like whatever, and to be a face of the campaign, or, talk about talking points in interviews, or whatever it is that would help you in this, like whatever. But the legislation was already in train at that stage. They didn't need me, and that's actually what happened. They didn't get back about me about that. That's what I know happened. What I'd like to think happened is that I rang them, and at the time they're having a big meeting because they've come to the end of the campaign for 20 years of campaign, and they hear the phone go off and no one can get to it, so it goes to an answering machine, and they're all sitting there when it clicks and beeps, and then you hear me going, hi, Dara Ó Briain here. If you need anyone to be the face of the campaign, I'm very happy to be the person who does all this. And they all went, fuck that shit. We haven't spent 20 years campaigning to change the laws in Ireland to have some cunt of Mock the Week step up at the last second, run onto the pitch, kick the ball over the line from 1 inch out, and then run around the stadium with his jersey over his head going, I declare Dara's law to be passed. But people did come out after the first time I did the show, and they said, God, Dara, that's a very personal show. It's a very honest show. It's unusual for you to do such an honest, such a personal show. And I had to go, yeah, I was trapped in a house for 2 years. Nothing happened. All I had to talk about was a missing bollock and a parent I hadn't met yet. That had to be about that. Here's the thing, right? You've been very good. You've come on that journey, and well done for coming on that journey. Thank you very, very much. I kind of know that might happen. That's one of the reasons we filmed it here, because it's Ireland, and you know the whole emotional context of that. And you don't have to explain too much, and you get the fucking story, because it's happening a lot around us at the moment, and those reckonings are occurring all the time. There are other places, however, where maybe when I get to the bit where I go, this is my birth cert, they haven't, I'm not going to name names, but Norwich. Genuinely, I said, and this is my birth cert. And the crowd went, sorry, what? Oh, did you find that piece of paper you were looking for? Oh, God, that's great. I wasn't really following the story, but your mother dropped you off at a library and you needed to find a piece of paper, and, well, I'm glad you found the piece of paper. Good for you. Whereas here, obviously, you get the context, you get what the emotional journey is, like rather instantly without having to explain it. To the extent that actually, I gotta admit it as a guilty secret, at this point of the show, the temptation when I'm doing any gig in Ireland, I've just told that story, the temptation is almost overwhelming to go, and she's here tonight. Because you would lap that shit up. You have been an absolute delight, ladies and gentlemen. An absolute delight. You've been wonderful. I'm Dara Ó Briain. Good night, goodbye, good luck. We'll see you again. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you very, very much. We'll see you again. Good night, folks. Thank you very much. Great to be in Vicar Street.